Welcome to the world of science fiction and forgotten worlds. Alien Universe. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and never miss a new movies and story from this channel. The alien twins had been running for so long that their small legs were shaking. Cold air filled their lungs as they pushed through the broken metal corridors of the abandoned station. Red warning lights flickered above them, painting the walls with flashes of blood-colored light. Behind them, heavy footsteps echoed. Through the darkness. Boom, boom, boom. Each step sounded like a giant hammer hitting the floor. "He's still coming," the smaller twin whispered, her voice trembling. Her brother didn't answer. He only ran faster. Everyone in the galaxy knew the stories about humans. Massive bodies, terrifying strength, unpredictable minds. Entire pirate crews had surrendered. A moment a single human soldier boarded their ship. And now one of those monsters was chasing them. The twins were barely the size of a human child. Their silver skin shimmered faintly in the flashing lights, and their thin tails dragged behind them as they sprinted through the corridor. They had one goal: escape. Left, the brother gasped. They turned sharply, slipping into a narrow maintenance tunnel. Loose wires brushed their faces, and dust filled the air. For a moment, the footsteps behind them faded. The twins stopped, breathing hard. Maybe he lost us," the girl said quietly. Her brother slowly shook his head. "No," he whispered. "Humans don't lose prey." As if the universe wanted to prove him right, a shadow suddenly filled the entrance of the tunnel. The footsteps returned. Closer. Slower. The twins froze. At the far end of the tunnel stood the human. He was enormous, at least 3 times their height, with broad shoulders that nearly blocked the passage behind him. A cracked helmet hung at his side, and his dark hair was covered in dust and dried blood. But the thing that terrified the twins most was that he wasn't holding a weapon. He didn't need one. The stories said humans could break bones with their bare hands. The girl grabbed her brother's arm. "Run!" They turned and sprinted deeper into the tunnel. Metal pipes rattled as they pushed forward, squeezing through tight spaces that the giant human could barely fit through. Behind them, the human moved again, but he wasn't running. He was walking. Slow, calm, patient, like he already knew they couldn't escape. The twins finally burst out of the tunnel into a massive cargo chamber. Broken crates floated in low gravity, drifting slowly across the room. At the far wall was a sealed airlock. Freedom. We can make it, the brother shouted. They rushed toward the door, their hearts pounding with hope. But when they reached the control panel, the screen flashed red. Lock. The girl's hands trembled as she pressed the buttons again and again. Nothing happened. Behind them, the heavy footsteps stopped. The room became silent. Slowly, the twins turned around. The human had entered the cargo chamber. He stood there quietly, watching them. No anger, no shouting, no weapon. Just those deep, unreadable eyes. The twins pressed themselves against the cold airlock door, their small bodies shaking. "This is it," the girl whispered. They had heard the stories. Humans never left witnesses. The giant human took one slow step forward, then another. The twins closed their eyes, waiting for the end. But instead of raising his fists, the human said something that made their hearts stop. "Why?" he asked softly. "Are you two running from the only one here trying to keep you alive?" The twins didn't move. For a moment, neither of them even breathed. The human's words echoed in the huge cargo chamber, mixing with the quiet hum of damaged machines and drifting metal crates. "Keep us alive?" the brother repeated slowly. His voice was small, confused. That made no sense. Humans didn't protect aliens. At least, that was what every story had always said. Humans conquered worlds. Humans destroyed fleets. Humans didn't chase terrified children through abandoned stations just to save them. The girl clutched her brother's arm tighter. "He's lying," she whispered. "Humans trick their prey first." The human heard that. A faint sigh escaped him, heavy and tired, like someone who had already heard those words too many times before. "I'm not lying," he said calmly. Then he took another step forward. The twins immediately pressed harder against the sealed airlock. "Don't come closer," the brother shouted. The human stopped. For a moment, the room fell silent again. Floating cargo containers drifted slowly between them, casting moving shadows across the floor. Finally, the human spoke again. "You can keep running if you want," he said. "But if you do, you're going to die in less than 10 minutes. The twins stared at him, fear twisted in their stomachs. "You expect us to believe that?" the girl asked. The human didn't look angry. He only looked serious. "You arrived on this station 3 hours ago," he said. "Your escape pod crashed into Dock Ring 7. Right after that, a pirate ship locked onto the station." The twins felt their hearts stop. How did he know that? The human continued. "They boarded 20 minutes ago." The brother slowly shook his head. "You're trying to scare us." "I'm trying to warn you." The human pointed toward the dark hallway behind him. "They're already inside." As if the universe wanted to prove his words, a distant metallic crash echoed through the station. Clang, then another. Clang, the sound of heavy doors being forced open. The twins looked at each other. Their fear deepened. "Pirates? Are pirates?" "The girl whispered. The human nodded once. "Slavers." That word hit them like ice. Slavers were worse than pirates. Much worse. They didn't just steal cargo. They stole people. Small aliens, especially twins like them, were incredibly valuable on the black markets. Rare species. Exotic biology. Some collectors would pay entire fortunes for living specimens. The girl's tail curled tightly around her leg. "If they find us," she whispered. The human finished the sentence for her. "They will." The brother slowly stepped forward, his voice shaking. "But why would you help us?" The human didn't answer immediately. He looked at the broken ceiling above them for a second, like he was thinking about something far away. Then he spoke quietly. "Because you remind me of someone." That was all he said. The twins didn't understand what that meant. But before they could ask anything else, a new sound reached the cargo chamber. Voices, rough, laughing, coming from the corridors. The human turned his head slightly, listening. "They're getting closer," he said. The twins' fear exploded again. "What do we do?" the girl asked. The human looked back at them. For the first time, there was urgency in his voice. "Come with me." The twins hesitated. Every instinct in their bodies screamed that trusting a human was a terrible idea. But the distant voices were getting louder. Boots clanged against metal floors. Someone shouted something in a harsh language. The brother swallowed hard. "Or," he asked. The human's expression became grim. "Or you stay here," he said. "And when those slavers walk through that door, you'll wish the human had caught you first." Silence filled the room. The twins looked at the dark hallway, then at the giant human standing in front of them. Finally, the brother made a decision, slowly, cautiously. He stepped away from the airlock. The girl followed. They stopped a few steps away from the human, still keeping their distance. The human nodded once. "Good choice." Then he turned toward another corridor. "Stay close," he said. The twins hurried after him, their small footsteps echoing behind his heavy boots. But as they disappeared into the dark hallway, none of them noticed the red sensor light blinking quietly above the cargo door. A pirate drone had already seen everything. And somewhere deep inside the station, Someone was already smiling. Two rare alien twins, a rough voice said through a communicator. Alive. A pause followed. Then the pirate captain chuckled. Bring me the human too. Those always sell for the highest price. The corridor was dark and narrow. Only a few emergency lights were still working, casting long shadows across the metal walls. The human walked in front, his heavy boots echoing softly with each step. Behind him, the alien twins hurried to keep up, their small feet almost silent. Neither of them spoke, but their eyes never left the human. He was too big, too strong, too dangerous. At least, that was what the galaxy always said about humans. After several minutes, the girl finally whispered, "Where are you taking us?" The human didn't slow down. "Somewhere safer than the cargo bay." "That's not very comforting," the brother muttered. The human glanced over his shoulder. "Trust me, if the slavers catch you, they won't care that you're scared." That shut them up. The station creaked around them as distant explosions echoed through the metal structure. Somewhere far away, pirates were forcing their way. Deeper inside, the human suddenly raised his hand. "Stop." The twins froze instantly. The human slowly crouched near the floor and touched a small panel hidden under a pipe. With a quick movement, he pulled it open. Inside was a narrow maintenance shaft. "We go through here," he said. The brother blinked. "That's barely big enough for us." The human gave a tired half-smile. "Exactly." The twins exchanged a look. "Wait, you're not coming?" the girl asked. The human shook his head. "I'll go around." Fear filled the girl's voice again. "But the slavers, I'll slow them down." The twins stared at him. "You're going to fight them?" the brother asked quietly. The human closed the panel halfway and gestured for them to climb inside. "Just move." Reluctantly, the twins crawled into the tight shaft. It was dusty and cold, but at least it was hidden. Before closing the panel completely, the girl looked back at the human. "Why are you really helping us?" she asked. For a moment, the human didn't answer. Then he said softly, "Because someone once did the same for me." The panel shut. Darkness surrounded the twins as they crawled deeper into the shaft. For a while, the only sound was their breathing and the distant echoes of boots and metal. Doors being broken open. Then suddenly, gunfire. Loud. The twins froze. Blaster shots exploded somewhere nearby, followed by shouting voices and heavy impacts. The human had found the slavers. Or maybe the slavers had found him. The girl's voice trembled. "Do you think he's going to survive?" The brother didn't answer right away. He slowly looked back toward the sealed panel behind them. Then he whispered something neither of them expected. "I think." He already knew he might not. The gunfire outside grew louder. And somewhere in the chaos of the station, a human was standing alone against an entire crew of slavers. The gunfire echoed through the station like thunder. Inside the narrow maintenance shaft, the alien twins froze in place. Dust shook loose from the metal walls every time another blaster fired. Somewhere nearby, the girl pressed her hands over her ears. "He's going to die," she whispered. The brother stayed still, listening carefully. Blaster shots, shouting, then heavy impacts against metal walls. The human was fighting them, alone. The twins continued crawling slowly through the dark shaft until they reached a small opening that looked down into another corridor. Faint light spilled through the vent. The brother carefully peeked through the grate. What he saw made his heart race. 4 slavers were moving down the hallway, large, armored, and carrying heavy plasma rifles. Their armor was covered with pirate markings, and their rough voices echoed as they spoke to each other. "Captain wants the twins alive," one of them growled. Another laughed. "And the human?" "Alive too, if possible." The brothers' hands tightened on the metal grate. Alive? Why would slavers want a human alive? Before he could think about it more, another loud crash echoed from the opposite side of the corridor. The slavers immediately turned their weapons. And then the human appeared. He stepped into the hallway like a storm. 2 slavers fired instantly. Bright plasma bolts lit up the corridor. But the human moved faster than the twins expected something that big to move. He slammed one pirate against the wall, so hard the metal bent inward. Another pirate swung his rifle like a club, but the human caught the weapon and ripped it out of his hands. Within seconds, 2 pirates were already on the floor. The twins stared in shock. Humans were strong, but this was something else. Then, one of the remaining slavers shouted into his communicator, "Captain, we found him." The human froze for just half a second. And in that moment, the pirate said something strange. Confirming target. Subject H-27. The human's face hardened. The twins looked at each other. Subject H-27? That didn't sound like a name. More pirates rushed into the corridor from the far side. 5, maybe 6 of them. Even the human couldn't fight that many at once. The brother whispered nervously, "He's surrounded." But the human didn't run. Instead, he slowly raised his hands. The pirates stopped firing. One of them laughed. "Smart move, human." Another pirate walked closer, scanning him with a small device. The scanner beeped loudly. Then the pirate grinned. Captain was right. He turned to the others. "This one isn't just a soldier." The pirate's voice filled the corridor. "He's the last surviving human war experiment." The twins felt their stomachs drop. The pirate continued with cruel excitement. Enhanced strength, faster reflexes, impossible endurance. He looked directly at the human. "You were designed to fight entire armies." The human stayed silent. The pirate smiled wider. "And now we're going to sell you to the highest bidder in the galaxy." The twins stared through the vent, their minds spinning. The human wasn't just helping them. He was running too. Running from something much bigger than pirates. But then the human slowly lowered his hands, and something unexpected happened. He started to smile, a calm, dangerous smile. And the twins suddenly realized something terrifying. The pirates thought they had captured the human, but maybe the human had just been waiting for all of them to arrive. The corridor fell silent. For a moment, the pirates surrounded the human, their rifles pointed directly at his chest. 6 armored slavers against 1 unarmed man to them. The fight was already over, but the human kept smiling. The pirate leader stepped closer, his scanner still glowing in his hand. "You know what you are worth?" he said with greedy excitement. "Entire governments will pay for a weapon like you." The human tilted his head slightly. "A weapon?" "Yes," the pirate laughed. "That's what you were made to be." For a brief second, the human looked tired. Then he said quietly, "That's what they thought too." And before anyone could react, he moved, faster than the twins' eyes could follow. One moment he was standing still. The next moment the nearest pirate crashed into the wall with a bone-shattering impact. The pirate's rifle clattered across the floor. The other slavers fired immediately. Bright plasma bolts filled the hallway, but the human was already moving. He ducked under one shot, grabbed another pirate by the armor, and slammed him into his own teammate. 2 bodies fell to the ground. The twins watched through the vent, frozen in shock. The pirates shouted in panic. "How is he moving that fast?" "He's unarmed." The human grabbed a fallen plasma rifle and crushed it in his hands. Like it was made of thin plastic. Metal snapped. Sparks flew. Then he turned toward the last 3 pirates. For the first time, fear appeared on their faces. They opened fire again, but the human rushed forward through the chaos. One pirate barely had time to scream before the human knocked him. Unconscious. Another tried to run. He didn't get far. Within seconds, the corridor became quiet again. 6 pirates lay on the floor. The human stood alone in the middle of the wreckage, breathing slowly. Above him, the twins stared in disbelief. The brother whispered, "He really could fight an army." The human suddenly looked up. Straight at the vent. For a second, the twins thought they had been discovered. But instead of anger, the human's voice was calm. "You can come out now." The twins carefully opened the vent and climbed down into the hallway. They looked around at the defeated pirates, their eyes wide. "You saved us," the girl said softly. The human shrugged. "They would have taken you." The brother looked up at the giant human. "But why risk everything for us?" The human was quiet for a moment. Then he walked toward the twins and knelt down so he wouldn't look so frightening. His voice was gentle, because the galaxy already has enough monsters. The twins didn't know what to say. Far away, the station. Alarms suddenly changed tone. A new ship had arrived. Rescue. The human stood again and looked toward the docking bay. "Looks like your ride is here." The girl hesitated. "What about you?" The human gave a small smile. "I'm better at disappearing than escaping." The twins slowly understood. He wasn't going with them. He was going to vanish again. Somewhere in the endless galaxy. The brother took one last look at him. "You're not a weapon," he said quietly. The human paused. Then he turned and started walking down the dark corridor. His final words echoed softly through the station. "No, I'm just a human who refuses to let kids die." And with that, the giant disappeared into the shadows of the galaxy, leaving behind 2 alien twins who would spend the rest of their lives telling the truth about the day a human saved them.